Alright, so in the last video, I talked about the first 5 steps in changing a mindset. And those first 5 steps were recognizing the desire for change, recognizing the need for change, recognizing the current mindset, recognizing the choices necessary, and recognizing the fear of change. So, that is what I call the introspective phase. That is when you're deep within yourself and pulling up all the old shit that needs to be pulled up in order to take action and move towards that change. So that was the introspective phase. That all leads into the action phase. And the action phase starts with, let's call it step 6, because there's about 15 steps in total. Welcoming the fear of change. Before, it was recognizing the fear of change, recognizing that your brain naturally wants to stay in that comfort zone. So the first part of the action phase is welcoming that fear. Asking yourself, okay, look at my situation where I'm at right now. What do I really have to lose by taking this risk? I know that this is for the better. Yes, it's a risk. Yes, stepping out and investing my money financially is a risk. There's a risk of losing it all. Okay. But is it any worse than where I'm at now? Realistically speaking? And if it does pan out, when it does pan out, how much better is it going to be? So you have to ask yourself, okay, well, what do I have to lose here? And it may be a lot. It may be that you lose everything that you thought you wanted. You may have to start over. You may have to completely erase everything that you knew before. But it's a lot like, it's a cycle. It's a lot like fall going into winter and winter going into spring. Fall comes, everything starts to die. Winter comes in and kills off the lot of it. But then spring comes, and new things grow. And that's a lot what it's like. Okay? Recognizing the fear of change and welcoming the fear. That's that mental winter where everything is just dead. And when you can recognize that, you can allow things to grow in new. Clear it out. So that's step 6. Or step 1 of the action phase, whichever you want to call it. But let's stay in line with the rest of them. So let's call that step 6. Is recognizing the fear of that change. Welcoming the fear of that change. Welcoming that you have to step out of that comfort zone. Step 7, encouraging the change. Okay, I can do this. I've got this. I can do this. It's going to be hard, but I can do this. Tell yourself you can do it. Because there's an old saying, and I don't remember who said it. I honestly don't. I would have to look into it, but for the sake of the video, I'm not going to worry about that. You can do that on your own time. But there's an old saying that says, Whether you tell yourself you can, or whether you tell yourself you can't, you're right. That's where it all begins. If you say, I can't afford this, I can't do this, I just can't do it right now, versus, I can do this. How can I do this? What is it going to take to take me there? Yeah, I think I can do this. You see the difference there? Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. That's the key. So that's step 7. Step 8 is very similar, but subtly different. And that is acknowledging and encouraging the small things, the small goals, the small achievements. Okay, if you're someone who in a depression struggles with basic hygiene, recognize when you got up and brushed your fucking teeth and look at it and said, I really did that today. Fucking good job. High five yourself in the mirror. And I'm serious about that. Look in the mirror. You did it. You fucking did it. Encourage yourself. Acknowledge the little thing, the tiniest things. I got up out of bed this morning. I did it. Awesome. It's as simple as that. Little things. That goes to, that was step 8. Step 9, never stop learning and moving forward. As you're doing this, you say, okay, I did this. Now how can I do it better? How can I get better at it? How can I build this habit that I'm trying to build, bit by bit? So what you do is you go and you research how to build this habit better. You learn how to learn. And I'm serious on that. Google how to learn, because most of us don't know how to learn a new habit, how to set a new habit. Which leads us, that was step 9, leads us to step 10. Be flexible. Be watchful. Adapt to the setbacks. You're gonna fuck up. That's just part of the game. It's gonna be 3 steps forward and sometimes 4 steps back. It happens. And it will happen. It's going to happen. The key is not to get discouraged, but to keep moving forward. Keep going. Keep taking those 3 steps forward. Because if you go 3 steps forward, and then you go 4 steps back, and then you take another 3 steps forward, guess what? You may not be 3 steps forward, but you're 2 steps forward. You're still forward of where you began originally. Assuming you began from 0. Keep going. Watch yourself. Watch your progress. Acknowledge when you've slipped up, because it's going to happen. But don't beat yourself up for it. Just keep going. Keep stepping forward. 1 step at a time. That would be step 10. The next step, step 11, and it's really those 2 steps can be, 10 and 11 can really be rolled into one. I've already kind of covered it. But don't judge yourself harshly. Don't harshly criticize your setbacks. Okay, don't judge, oh, you fucked up, you're such a fuck up. No. Don't do that. Just say, I slipped up. Okay. Get back onto the path. Just correct it. And keep going. Okay, I didn't exercise today. All right. I recognize that it was within my plan to to do better today and exercise daily, I forgot today. Let's say it's dinner time and you're like, oh damn, I forgot to go to the gym today. Do some push-ups, do some sit-ups, do some crunches. Doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot at all. Okay? 10, 20, you don't have to do a whole lot. The point is to get yourself into the habit of doing it. Okay? If you get up from the table, you're like, oh, I forgot to go to the gym today. Get up from the table and do 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups. It's not that hard. It's not that hard at all. And that's one I struggle with personally. I hate getting out and exercising. I really do. So that's one that hits home for me. That was meant for me. That was meant for me. Okay? Which leads me to step 12. And again, these three are very similar and can be really rolled into one, but I feel the need to distinguish them and make them points. Step 12 is that small corrections make big changes. Okay? Little tiny corrections. If let's say you're traveling at sea and you're going this way and then you just kind of veer off course just a little bit. Doesn't seem like much, does it? But let's say you keep going for hours at a time. And hours. And hours. And hours. And hours. And now, you're way off course of where you were intending to go. Small corrections make big changes over time. Just that 10 push-ups a day, and increasing it when you feel good, you increase it to 15, 20, 30, 40, 50. Next thing you know, over the course of a year, you're busting out 100 a day and you're in top shape. Small changes, small course corrections, little tiny things. 1% a day. That's all you need. 1% a day. And you'll hear that little saying, oh, well, 1% a day is 350%, 365% a year. No, that's bullshit. Okay? It doesn't scale like that. It scales like that if you're increasing every day, yes. But don't worry about the end game. Just focus on that 1% a day. And yes, push it forward, scale it, but you'll get to the point where you will say to yourself, well, this 1% isn't enough. I don't feel what I used to feel. I don't feel as good about this 1% that I used to. Let's bump it to 2%. And then you feel good for that. Let's say you're doing 1 push-up a day. Let's keep on the fitness thing, because I know this is something that's personal to me. Let's say you're doing 1 push-up a day, and that's trivial. That's absolutely trivial. Personally, I try to average 10 a day, and more. I mean, I used to do a lot more, but I hate push-ups. I despise them. But they're good for your back and they're good for your chest, which is something that I have problems with on my own. Medical stuff. But let's say you do 1 a day. Let's say you're absolutely terrible at push-ups, you're horrible at physical health, but you resolve to do 1 push-up a day. Okay, let's say when you wake up in the morning, you get up, you do 1 push-up, get up, go about your business. Cool. You're going to get to a point where that 1 push-up isn't doing it for you. And you're like, I can do better than this. So you move to 2 push-ups a day. And you get up and you, 1, 2. Cool. Then it happens again. You get to the point where I know I can do better than this. I can do better than this. 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. Small corrections, little tiny things, 1% at a time. They build on each other and keep building and keep building and keep building. And it all just gets to a point where you reach the 3rd phase. This is where the 3rd phase comes in. The 3rd phase is called the snowball phase, which, you know what? Let's go on into it. I was going to do it as a 3-video series, but let's go on into it. So the 3rd phase is the snowball phase. And the snowball phase is where your actions, your choices, your habits have accumulated to the point where they become solidified in your brain. And then everything takes off. They become habit. They become automatic. So that when you wake up and you're automatically doing 10 push-ups a day, and it gets to the point where 10 push-ups a day isn't enough, so you do 20. 20 isn't enough, so you do 30. And it becomes this exponential growth because that 1% a day is no longer enough. Now you've got to bump it up by 10%, 20%, 30%. And it starts to feel good deep down because you know you're making progress. You're seeing your progress. And you're seeing how much you've changed over the course of however long it's been. So, the 3rd phase. Let's go back for a moment and recap on the 2nd phase for a second. So, the 2nd phase is the action phase. It starts with welcoming the fear. Welcoming the fear of getting out of your comfort zone. Then, encouraging the change. I can do this. I can do this. I know I'm better than this. I can do this. Same with the next step, encouraging and acknowledging the small things, the little victories and goals. I did that. It was tiny, it was minuscule, but I fucking did it. I did it. And I'm proud of it. That was me. I did that. I couldn't do that 3 months ago. I did it. Here and now. The next one. Don't stop learning and growing and moving forward. Okay. How can I do it better? I know I can do this. How can I do it better? Be flexible with setbacks. Ah, shit. I fucked up. I took 2 steps backwards. Okay. Alright. Cool. Which is the next phase. Don't judge or harshly criticize yourself. Just correct it. Don't worry about how much you fucked up. Just correct it. I fucked up. I took 2 steps backwards. I fell back into an old habit. Okay, I recognize that. What do? I'll do better. And the final step of the action phase is small corrections. 1% at a time. That 1 push-up a day. 1 push-up a day. You know what? I can do better than this. 2 push-ups a day. 2 push-ups a day. I can still do better. 3 push-ups a day. 3 push-ups a day. I can do better. 4 push-ups a day. Snowball phase. Everything grows exponentially. I'm doing 4 push-ups a day. You know what? Let's make it 10. Because I know that I can do this. You know what? 10's not enough. Let's bump it up to 20 and see how we feel. Let's bump it up to 20 for a week and see how I feel. Okay, that was a little much. And this is the first step of the snowball phase. Recognizing, okay, I went to 20 push-ups a day. That was a little much for me. Let's scale it back to 10, 15. We'll take it back a little bit. Be realistic about your time. Okay? If you've got a habit that you've been doing for 30 years, it's not going to break in a couple of months. Be realistic about it. Okay? If you've got a habit for 30 years, it's going to take time to break. It's going to take dedication. But you can't go too fast. You gotta be realistic. You can't expect it to change overnight. Which leads us to the next step. Be mindful of burnout. And really these 2 steps are really one, but be realistic about your time and be mindful of burnout. Because if you go too hard too fast, you're going to lose interest. You're going to lose it. So you have to be able to scale it back and be back on your level. You can't spend too much time outside of the comfort zone. You got to be able to step back in there. Every now and then, know when to step back and say, okay, I've been out of my comfort zone for far too long. It's stressing me out. Let's step back in here. Okay? That all comes to one more step. And really, I've already covered this step, but it's so important that it warrants covering again as a final step. And that is, be proud of your accomplishments. Enjoy it. Enjoy yourself. Love what you've become and what you are becoming. Love them with all your heart and know that this is a better me. I'm on a better path. A path to creating something beautiful and strong and healthy. Look at where I've been and how far I've come since then. Since I decided to ask myself, how did I get where I'm at? Look at how far I've come from steps 1 and 2 of recognizing the desire for change and recognizing the need for change. Look at how far I've come. That is how you change a mindset. Now that I've covered the 15 steps, there's one more. And it's not a step, but it is something that you have to keep in mind. This is a process. It's not a one and done thing. We can be at different steps in our lives for different situations. Okay, you can be in the action phase for one thing, for one habit, and still in the early introspective phase for another. They aren't the same. Okay, there are things in my life where I know that I'm still in the first phase of. There are things in my life that I don't want to change, even though I know they need to. There are things that I know that I need to pay attention to, even though my mind doesn't want to, because it's afraid of them. Recognizing the fear of change. It's hard to get from phase 1 to phase 2. It's hard. It's very hard to do. But you can. But this is not a one and done thing. Okay? You don't just water a plant once that you're growing and expect it to grow into a tree. No, you got to keep watering it and keep watering it and keep caring for it and pruning it, harvesting the fruit. It's a process. It's a growth process. So that growth must be maintained, or the tree will wither and die. Now, you may not slip back into the original habits. Once you change it, once your mindset changes, it will always be changed. It'll just adapt other habits. But it's important, it's very, very important to keep that in mind and to grow with yourself and maintain that growth. Reach ever higher. That's how to change a mindset, my friends. And this is part 2 of a 2-part video, and this one ran a little bit longer than I was expecting, but it's worth it. You're worth it. I'm worth it. We're all worth it. So if it runs a little long, that's okay. You guys have a good night.